just a reminder, masks must be worn at all times over your mouth and over your nose. Speakers, please be sure to repeat the question. If there are any questions, please speak loudly and give us time to hear every question. Speakers, again, repeat the question prior to answering. This meeting will be live on Zoom. It will also show on channel 955 tomorrow, Tuesday, as well as Wednesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. As always, minutes will be distributed in about a month. Remember that internal mail is now being distributed in your internal mailboxes. Please remind your friends. Glenn, we're ready to go.
I feel like a horse at the starting gate. The meeting is called to order. I'd like to welcome all new residents. Do we have any here today? We have several.
Around the corner.
Oh.
Could you stand up and state your name, please?
My name is Leonard Lawwasser.
Oh.
Welcome, Leonard. With that, we're ready to start our program with Brenda and Luke. I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Brenda.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you everyone for making it today, and those visiting via Zoom for the first time, so hopefully that all goes well today. I think we're good. Megan gave her thumbs up. So. First item for me to cover are COVID updates. As of right now, we remain within phase 2. We are trending upward at a county positivity rate up from a 5.3 to a 6.6. So progress is going to slow a bit on campus as we progress through the phases, but we'll be sure to be communicating that out as we go into the new steps. And I'll go through the process in which we move between the different phases, just so you're all aware on the steps that we take and how cautious that we are, and it's not something that we jump right into. As of right now, phase 3, for all intents and purposes, that's back to normalcy. We do not see that taking place until there's either a vaccine or orders by the state or federal government. At the time, we do not see that anywhere in the near future, but we will be sure to keep you all updated as we progress. Second question regarding visitors in apartments here in our independent living, whether that be allowed and what that would look like. We're continuing to follow the LCS guidance along with Ozaukee County. At this time, it's not being recommended due to the county case rate. So the positivity rate is, again, at 6.6. In order for us to be considering moving into that phase, we'd have to be below 5%. So we've got a ways to go, but just for a point of reference, about 4 weeks ago, we were right around 5.3%. So it's within reason, but we want to see continued sustained balance below that 5%. We do have some communities with LCS that are trending around 3.3 to the county positivity rate, and they are working into those stages to where they can have visitors in their apartment on a limited basis. As of right now, we have opened up alternative visiting locations, including the boardroom, the welcome center on an as-needed basis, as well as the visiting center and the vestibule, of course. So we do have multiple locations, a little bit more intimate areas for you to all meet in, rather than being in the vestibule where you have people passing back and forth throughout your meeting. So there are some better options. When needing to schedule those, be sure to reach out to Rachel at the front desk, and she'll be able to set those times up for you. So. Concerns about safety. Third question is, I have heightened concerns regarding the safety of Newcastle Place residents and property during this time of protest and property destruction in other areas of the country, as well as in cities nearby. I would like to know the plans Newcastle has in place regarding this. So our very own Brian Lumens, wave, has connected with the local police department just to ask what would we do if something were to happen, and what is the plan. The police department, they assign different levels to each property, so your threat level, essentially. And Newcastle Place has been identified as a very low threat level. Typically in protests, they've targeted businesses, retail centers, not senior communities up to date. But if it were to happen, what would we do? His response was that we partnered with a lot of local communities and their police department. We would be one of the first places that they would go to, being the density and the vulnerability of our residents here on campus. So we'd be a high focus area for the police to support and protect. Then we asked, what can we do on campus to make sure our residents are safe? What can we do as staff? As part of our emergency preparedness, we have a number of drills that we do. One is shelter in place. This drill entails locking all doors, pulling the fire alarms, turning off the lights, shutting the window curtains, and all the residents to go to their rooms. That's the first thing that we could do as a team here. Also, if you're living in a carriage home, you do have a security system tied to your home. If you have any problems with that, please let us know so we can service that and make sure they're all functional. So over the next couple of weeks, Brian's team, we're going to be working to do some drills on our second and third shift, because that's primarily when we see something like that to occur, to make sure our staff are trained and ready for that. If you guys have any other ideas, any recommendations for us to do, we're more than happy to look at that. These are new times for a lot of us to go through, so there are a lot of different avenues and opportunities and things to look at. But right now, we're looking at the shelter-in-place plan and also working with the local police department. So, do you have any questions on any of that? There's a lot of information going on right there. Okay, perfect. The fourth question. Are the precautionary regulations to protect residents from COVID-19 virus decided by management, or is there a procedure in which residents have input? All right, get ready. There's a lot of steps here. First step, the resident council will propose some changes to take place here on campus. So it's typically done through a vote, and majority vote will move that item forward. When that decision's been made to move forward on a certain agenda item, our leadership team will then get involved. We'll get together and do a majority vote as well. If we all feel like it's an appropriate step to move forward with, we will then meet with Ozaukee County. Ozaukee County will give us their recommendations at the time, based on the positivity county trend rate, different information factors that feed in, they'll give us their recommendation. So in regards to the dining program, Ozaukee County was comfortable with us moving into that for our independent living area. The next step, we complete a reopening form that we submit to LCS for approval. That's submitted by myself and approved by my supervisor and the vice president of LCS. Once that form has been approved, we then take that back to the resident council to review for final approval. When the resident council gives the final approval on that, we then send out a questionnaire to all the residents to ensure that you all were supportive of that. So for the dining program, we sent around a lot of questionnaires. I believe every resident had the opportunity to answer that. We received back about 60%, we'd say. And out of that, the majority had approved us to move forward with the dining program. We then brought that back again to the resident council. The resident council approved the majority vote for the dining room to be opening. And that's where we're at today. So we sent out the communication, notifying everyone of the majority vote and the decision to move forward. So I hope you all understand that any changes in any step, there's a lot of process that fall behind all of that. It's not a quick decision that myself or anyone in leadership would make. The resident council is very involved in that process, and there's a voting process. So if you have any questions about different steps or measures that we're taking here on campus, please talk to your different resident council members. To that, I asked Glenn to speak a little bit about the resident council's involvement and make sure you all understand what the resident council is designed to do here for you all. Because they're voted in position to represent you all. So I want to make sure that you all feel that you're heard, and your voice is there, and that you're being aware of all the different changes. Because there are a lot of changes happening right now. We all know that. And before Glenn gets a chance, one last thing, go Pack Go.
Thank you. The duties of the resident council are fairly simple. Broken down into 4 steps, basically. The council represents only independent living residents and communicates their interests to the executive director, Brenda. 2, the council promotes an understanding of administrative policies and procedures to the independent living group. 3, council members are the prime connection with the independent living residents. So each of the council members are your contacts and should be used. 4, the Newcastle Place Council is not an enforcer of administrative policies or procedures. It is not a policy-making body. We are a voice for residents' concerns and needs, make recommendations to management. The council consists of 12 members, 7 from the North Campus and 5 from the South Campus, including carriage houses. Myself, Bill Warnicki is the Bob Hanley, Dee Bolus, Peter Hitler, Gail Johnson, Connie Bucati, and Walter Tratner, Phyllis Vale, Jim Waterfield, B. Johnson. We have 1 vacancy which is to be filled. We're currently waiting for another volunteer for that position so we can select one for that job. That's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, very good. I am Christy Stem. I'm the newly appointed administrator here at the Highlands at Newcastle. I'm really excited to be in my new position, and most of you, I think, in this room I've met somewhere along the line in the 9.5 years I've been here. I've been asked to speak today and give you guys some updates on the health center. First and foremost, we continue our policies and procedures, wearing our PPE, ensuring the safety and security of our residents throughout this pandemic. Right now, we are not currently taking admissions to the health center until the 8th of October, and that is because we did have an employee test positive almost 14 days ago now. And so we've been really very closely monitoring our residents and keeping them quarantined. Thankfully, none of our residents have COVID, and we are still COVID-free for our residents. But to take that as a precaution, we are following the health department's guidelines. And so on the 8th, we will then be opened up for admissions again. They did allow us to take admissions only for our Newcastle residents. So anyone that lived in our Newcastle was able to come in for rehabilitation if they were hospitalized and were ready for placement. So they are also under quarantine at this time. We have been planning for state survey, so we are annually surveyed, and we are in open survey window right now. Anytime between now and the end of this year, the state of Wisconsin can come in to the health center and look at all of our practices. So they don't tell us when they're coming, we just look every day and be survey ready. So we are prepping for that and looking at our practices, ensuring that everything is fine-tuned so that we do a great job, and hopefully it'll be a citation-free when they come in this year. The other thing we've been doing is looking at visitation. Unfortunately, with our cold weather coming, the outside visits, I think, are going to be less. And so we did open up our visiting health center area for visitation now over for the skilled care residents who are no longer quarantined, can have visitors in there, as well as our assisted living residents. At this time, our memory care residents are not able to have visitors at this time. The second thing on here is just an update for the assisted living and memory care director position that I'm currently doing. That position, I did have an accepted offer, and we are going to have a new director starting on November 9th. Her name is Melissa Tritton, and I'm very excited to have her come on board with us. She is not new to long-term care. She's not new to assisted living. She's been doing her current role where she is with her company for the last 5 years, and then running a facility very successfully. So very excited to have her come on board with us. Thank you.
Those of you watching on Zoom, just so you're aware, we will be sending out the minutes We have gotten reports that some people are unable to hear on Zoom. We are working on it, but know that the minutes will be sent out. Resident handbook updates. We've been working very hard. Thank you to all the staff and residents that have been working to help us update our resident handbook. We really appreciate your help, and we anticipate that it will be completed mid-November for all residents to receive, as well as all of our upcoming new residents. Communication updates. Again, just a reminder that your internal mailboxes are being used again. So internal communication will go to your mailboxes, as well as we are sending out emails along with those paper copies. So if you have your email address or a loved one wants to add to that email address, please get with the reception team and get them their information. A question we had stated, I have received 3 phone calls in the past few days from Diana asking for personal information. We've received a number of heightened reports of fraudulent calls as well as emails. Just a reminder, do not respond verbally or by pressing any buttons. We've found that seniors are definitely a target for this fraudulent activity, and we want to remind you to be very careful. Again, reach out to the reception team or myself if you have questions about this. I'm uncertain. An additional question was that there is a concern regarding the screening desk and the bookshelf appearance in our main lobby. Of course, we understand and agree that our main lobby is beautiful and we want to keep it that way. The scene that you are seeing now is very temporary. However, we understand your concern and we're looking for an alternative option to storing the temperature screener's materials. And my last question here is that a number of cars have been parking on the road, causing a hazard. I'm concerned about the upcoming winter months. We are too. We hear your concerns, and our leadership team has seen those concerns as well. We hope to have some arrangements and changes made in the next 2 weeks regarding this. The reasoning for the cars piling up there is because our Highlands Health Center team members must screen in upon entry to work. So unfortunately, they're screening in and then parking on the road because it's most convenient for them rather than parking and then driving around. So we're looking for some alternatives to keep everyone safe, but also to keep our employees happy. Next, we have listed Diana Jacoby for Resident Health Services. Some Resident Health Services updates. Diana is back. Of course, you can see she's very busy, so feel free to reach out to Diana with any of your Resident Health Services needs. Flu shots have arrived. They will be coming in, and we have sent out communication regarding when those are being distributed. I see Diana now. You want to join in, Diana?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
You're on it.
I'm on.
You're on.
Come on. Come on. I'm here. Hi, everyone. I'm back. Thanks, Anna. Sorry about that. I was kind of finishing up with something. Flu shots. Everybody's excited about those, right?
Yes.
Yeah? We're going to do them on the 14th. That is next Wednesday in this building. Then the Friday, the 16th, it'll be over at the Estates. Now, if you can't make one of those two, please call me. We will make sure that we can get you covered. This is a 65 and older flu vaccine. So those of you who are questioning that, the 65 and older is hard to get right now, so I would suggest you get it here. I know that Walgreens knows right now. I made some calls this morning. They're out of the 65 and older. So just to let you know, that is the only vaccine we give here. I don't have availability to shingles or any of the others at this time. I just wanted to let you know that. We are doing informational updates on your medical information. See how I fix that? Everybody, up over the nose, please. It's hard enough, but I keep dropping them. But we're asking, Brianna or I will be calling for information just to update your medical information. So if anybody's got a question, feel free to call, but that's all this is just updating to make sure that we have the correct information. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Should we make a reservation to have a shot or just come?
What we're doing is we're doing it in large areas like this chapel and the card room. So we will have people 6 feet apart and different sections that we can go through. I wouldn't mind, if you still don't feel comfortable with that, please give me a call, I understand that. And I will, try to accommodate you as soon as I can. Anything else? Well, I'm glad to see everybody here.
We're glad to see you.
Right, great. Great.
And good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me with my mask on, or should I pull it? Let me know if I need to pull it down. Let's do it that way. Pull it down. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk about reopening up the dining rooms. And obviously it's been a topic of conversation with a lot of people. We're going to use a expected date of October 26th, which will be the last Monday of the month. And again, I'd like to remind everybody that that could change. We still have a lot of unknowns to deal with, but we are really hopeful to start reopening up the dining rooms. It may also be, just to put some ideas in there in case we need to change our tempo a little bit, I may opt, depending on how things go, to open up maybe one dining room at a time. Like maybe start with the big dining room, and maybe a week or two later open up the Royal Oak Room dining room. That's not for certain, it's just possibilities that I'm looking at as we go, depending on how things develop as we go. So, looking at reopening up the dining rooms, we are really looking, hopefully, to do so. And at this point, and I've checked with other communities of those who have moved along a little bit faster than we have and what they've done. And most communities have been able to go to allowing at least a table of 4 people to sit together, like 2 couples, for example. Possibly even using the round tables up to 6 people, but no groups larger than 6. And I do want to stress also that this is not like mandating that you have to sit with somebody else. If you want to come down to the dining room and just sit by yourself, or a couple sit by themselves and not be close to other people, that's perfectly fine too. We will work around that. So it'll be very important when you make reservations that you specify if you have any preferences. Okay? Any questions on that so far? So I'm going to try to ask, give room for questions as I go, because I've got quite a bit to cover. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, Ray, I want to make sure I understand correctly. So you will have tables of 4 with 4 people sitting around them?
We will allow up to 4 people or even 6 at the rounds if you choose to do so.
Okay, so then what
To
you were
repeat the
saying
question,
is-
please.
Okay.
So then what you were saying is that you're accepting the idea of having people less than 6 feet apart.
So the question is, are we looking at allowing people to sit less than 6 feet apart? We are going to give people the option to do so. We're not going to force people to do so. So in other words, like I say, when you make a reservation, if you really would like to sit by yourself or just a couple sit by themselves, you can do so, but you need to specify that on the reservations. Obviously, because we need to keep track of how many tables we have, and if I think I'm going to have 4 people sit at a table of 4, rather than 4 people sitting at 4 separate tables, makes a big difference on the number of tables I'm working with in the dining room. So we're going to have to try to be very specific. And the other side of the coin that I want to make people aware of, so that I'm as transparent as can be, staffing is a huge issue so far this year. We're getting there, but it is tough. So there are nights in the dining room that we may have to allow less reservations due to how many servers we may have to work on that evening. So if I'm really short-staffed on a given day, we may have to only use half the dining room for seating rather than the full dining room. In other words, like on Monday is always the busiest night here at the Skylight. We usually do around 100 dinners or so. And that does require 5 or 6 servers to do good service. So I'm just making, hypothetically, if I only had 2 servers on a Monday night, I would have to limit the number of reservations that I will take for that night. The rest would have to be to-go orders or delivery orders, type of thing. Mrs. Bilko.
How far in advance can we reserve?
Good question. How far in advance can we make the reservations? I am going to ask that when we first go into reopening up the dining rooms so that we can monitor better what's going on, to keep on the same mode that we are now, where you make reservations on a daily basis only. And I would even ask that lunches, obviously, we always call them in before 11 so that if people need to-go orders or delivery, we can get them ready. And I would ask then maybe that for the night reservations, for the PM reservations, that we call in after 11 a.m. So from 11 a.m. to 3:30, I think it will help facilitate and keep things orderly at the beginning. And as we go, I plan to go back to the old ways of doing just like we always did it before. But just to make sure we're keeping things orderly, let's have some rules to follow. Any other questions on reservations?
Will the dining room be open for lunch?
Will the dining room be open for lunch? Yes, at this point, my goal is to reopen up the dining room again for lunch. See if we have any activity this time. Hopefully we will.
Do you intend to have tablecloths, and if so, will they be changed between sittings?
Are we planning to put the tablecloths back on, so on and so forth? Yes, at this point, my goal is to, and then this goes back to the other communities that I've spoken with, to just reset the dining room so that they are inviting again, have tablecloths, have china, have glassware, make it look like a nice dining room again. I'm really looking forward to that day. I don't like the way it looks now, it's cafeteria style. But so that, yes, that's what we're planning to do. And yes, every tablecloth will have to be changed at every sitting, without a doubt. Yes, sir.
What about the Blue Heron Room and cocktails?
What about the Blue Heron Lounge and cocktail area? We are reopening that as well. I think even on the calendar, if I remember right, I had her put the 20th. We weren't sure when we were going to be able to open, so we're going to try to open up for the happy hours. That's usually when people come down to the Blue Heron, especially. So I think the 20th, that week, we're going to do Tuesday and Friday like we always do, the happy hour. Again, I will remind and I will ask people to please wear their mask as much as possible. I know when you drink a cocktail, you're going to have to somehow sip it in there. However, wearing the mask is so important. I will stress that to no end. So please wear their mask, and as much as possible, even in the Blue Heron, keep some distance between yourselves. It's important to do so. Yes.
Just want to be clear, when the dining rooms open up again, we still cannot have outside guests come in and join us for dinner, is that correct?
Very good question. She was asking, are we going to allow guests to come in and join you for dinner hours type of thing? At this time, no. We're going to keep only open to the resident population. Again, just to minimize any risk that we, as best as we can. Yes, sir. Mr. Dillon.
Ray, do you foresee a problem resulting from the fact that, at least in the past, there has been a crowding of people around the front stand waiting to be seated because whoever's in charge, whether it's you or Deb or Brandon, is busy doing other things. And so you get the accumulation of people, certainly less than 6 feet apart, at the front stand. Plus, people who come down to pick up orders, if, as I understand, you don't plan to continue the delivery of orders without a fee. Is that true?
Yes, I will go into that
Okay.
as well.
So that
What was
means
that question, please?
He's not done yet. I will basically.
So that means that people who have placed an order and who come down to pick it up If the order is not ready, they too gather around the stand, and so you end up with, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10 people, who all less than 6 feet apart, standing around, either waiting for their order or waiting to be seated, which seems to me is not appropriate for the kind of precaution that we want to have taken.
Okay, so the comments being made, very good comments. Several times when we are open under normal circumstances, there seems to be a gathering of people around the hostess desk area, whether they're waiting to be seated or whether they're there to pick up a to-go order. And so this would be a great time again to remind everybody, to please, when you're coming down to the dining room or to do a pickup order, to please wear your masks. That's number one. And as well, be aware of keeping your distance from other people. Now, I may take a look, that brings up a very good point, maybe a separate area to pick up the to-go orders, like from the cafe, for example. I'll take a look at that. That's a very good point.
I had suggested in a memo to Brandon at some point that you have a table located conveniently with the orders on them, so that those who come to pick up orders can come pick up their order and leave rather than wait for Brandon or you or Deb to do it.
So he also made another suggestion that for to-go orders, to possibly set up a separate area, again, a table aside somewhere else with the to-go bags well labeled with people's names or room numbers on them, and that people would not have to wait for me to go get it or Brandon to go get it, so on and so forth. Which is a very good idea. I've made a note of that, and we'll take a look at that. Did I address all the points on your long questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on reservations or coming down to the dining room? If not, so another point that he did bring up, once we reopen the dining rooms, we will no longer be delivering at no charge, which means we want to go back to the old way of people coming down to pick up their food. Again, if you are sick and unable to come down, we always will deliver at no charge. And a reminder that Diana is always the gatekeeper on that one. She lets me know who gets it for free and who doesn't, so make sure you go through Diana. Very important. Deliveries, like I say, will still be made, but there will be a charge at that point if you wish to have us bring it up to your room and you're in good health, so to speak. Any questions on that? Yes, Mr. Passion?
Things are really not any better now than they were when you closed everything off. So, how is it that we now feel it's okay to do all of the reopening, as much as I like it?
Okay. So his comments were that the results of COVID are not any better right now than they were when we kind of kicked into this mode, so to speak. And so why are we feeling comfortable with moving forward at this point? One of the things that we strongly considered, obviously, was definitely not allowing guests to come in. We feel so far, and judging by other communities as well, we feel that we've had really very little cases that have popped up here in the community. And so we feel that the resident population is fairly safe right now. So we have had a lot of people that are asking when they want to get out of their apartments, they want a little bit more freedom. So we're going to reopen the dining rooms with that in mind. But again, each person has the right to decide for themselves if they feel safe coming down into the dining room. I'm not, I don't want to feel like I'm forcing anyone, but we've had a lot of people that are very lonely, that are, we want to try to motivate so that people are not becoming too sedentary, and it causes all kinds of side effects from that point on. Yeah, and Brendan would like to add to that.
And Mr. Passion, also to add to that, we've had some recent communication from CMS indicating that the mortality rate isn't as high as they had initially anticipated with COVID. And they're actually finding that social isolation and depression are running rampant, especially among the senior population. So that's why they're allowing the loosening of some rules and regulations within independent living. The health center, memory care center, very different. But here in independent living, you have the ability to follow social distancing guidelines. You have the option of going to the dining room. And most importantly, we took a poll of all the residents. We wanted to understand from all of you what's most important. And the majority vote was for the dining room to open. Of course, if there were some cases, we were tracing it to the dining room, and we could figure out that there's some liability within all of that, we'd of course go back. So this isn't new ruling that we're going to be following forever, no matter what. The important thing to understand is that we're always going to be monitoring this on a regular basis and seeing who you have contact with. Outside caregivers, if you have family that has visited, anything like that, through the visiting location. We're always going to be monitoring that. So each step is, as Ray pointed out, temporary and subject to change. So we're always going to be monitoring this. But really, to ideally, to Ray's point, touch on the social isolation that we're really seeing.
I would also make the observation that when the pandemic first started, people in our community, in Newcastle, were coming and going in the community quite a lot. We were not wearing masks at that time, and no one knew how this was being transmitted and what the result of transmission would be. Now we have been isolated for a sufficient period of time that we now know we're not transmitting COVID within our community, within our Newcastle neighborhood. So I think we're safer now than we were then.
Do I need to repeat that, or did you all get that?
No.
You didn't get that? She was just basically saying, that at the beginning of COVID also, there was a lot more unknowns at the time. We did not know the modes of transmissions as much. We were not wearing masks at the time, and now people have gotten on board. People are being really good about wearing their masks. I think most of you overall do pay attention to the social distance. So I think we're a little bit safer. And again, things could change tomorrow. We all know that. That's why I made that point at the beginning. I hope not, but if something ever happens, we would have to go back to square zero and start all over again. So, any other questions or comments regarding this topic? I'm going to look at my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to, just to remind you when I said wearing the masks and so on and so forth, I would also keep reminding the residents we have to stand for the sanitizer as you enter the dining room. Please sanitize your hands just as an extra step. And the last thing I want to remind everyone, we currently, let me back up a bit. I'm going to ask everybody's patience and understanding when we reopen the dining room that we have a brand new staff and no one has been trained for table service since almost last December. The few people that we had at that time that were kicked into COVID mode are pretty much all gone away with school starting, so we've got a brand new staff. All they've done so far since they've been here is do to-go orders. So we have a lot of training to do. It will take a little patience on everybody's part. And please, when there are issues, you all know me well enough, please call me and make me aware of them so I can work on it and make things a little bit better as much as I can. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Please.
Are these people tested? At what point are they tested for COVID?
What people? I'm sorry.
The servers, let's say, or the kitchen staff, or whatever.
The CMS to my knowledge so far, they only test if you have any symptoms, and we've been very lucky so far. So that's the only way to test. The only difference right now, CMS has mandated for the last couple of weeks now that anyone who works in the health center has to be tested every week. And that covers a large part of my staff because we all pretty much work in there. So I've been tested the last couple of weeks. Most of my staff has been tested the last couple of weeks because they work in the health center. But not everyone has, not yet. Yes. And the last question on my agenda was, is there a chance that the cafe could be open on the weekends? At this time, I will have to say no, which staffing will not permit it for one thing. We will take a look at it again as we go. When we initially opened up the cafe, a lot of you were not here at the time, we were open on Saturdays also, and my thought then, especially when I opened up the cafe, was that Saturdays is going to be my busiest days with families visiting and so on and so forth. Saturdays was an absolutely worthless day to be open. She'd have maybe 1-2 customers all day, and that's it. So it just was not worth it. So we made a decision, a business decision at the time to close on Saturdays. Okay, any other questions?
Ray, can you get to-go items on weekends?
Yes, the one thing, good point. Somebody would ask me, like, since the cafe is not open, can you do to-goes? We're always open for lunch, and you can do a pickup order from the dining room, you can do a delivery, you can, and when we reopen the dining room, even now you can do that, and when we reopen the dining room, we'll be open in the dining room for lunch as well. So there's always food available as far as that goes. Okay? All right, Brian. Go get him.
Usually we're up here. Good afternoon. It's been a long time. I was looking for my notes for this afternoon's meeting, and I had a hard time finding, but I did find a cucumber recipe that I've been looking for some time. Garlic refrigerator. Jalapenos in there. Aha. With all these masks, you know what I miss most are all the smiles.
Yes.
But now would be a good time to take up ventriloquism, don't you think? Who's gonna know? Well, anyway, I'll get down to business. My business is a little lighter, thank heavens. On the lighter side. When will you clean the path through the woods? Maybe fortunately or unfortunately, we have used all of our resources this summer to renovate grassy, seedy areas and things of that nature. So we will not, and are not planning to clean the path through the woods this fall. So that's a very short, concise answer for that. In the back row.
Could you at least move the logs? I mean, it's
Yes, Gisela, we certainly can. We'll chop the logs off the trails that have fallen down. We will do that, yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Next I have the columns on the balconies are in need of painting, but maybe the painting could be the priority next year in 2021. And I would agree that that could be a priority. The lintels need painting, some of the lumber needs painting, and it is on our schedule. And the good news is now we were able to find and hire a full-time painter for our staff and a second full-time painter for our staff, something we've never had the luxury of having. And I think from here on in, I'm in heaven when it comes to painting, because that's certainly good news, and thanks to Brandon for his support doing all that. Next spring, could we get 3 to 4 picnic-type tables on the large green space just east of the Highland Port entrance? There's a resident landscaping committee member here. There's one, and there's one. We have one more meeting in October, and I would hope to bring this to them in October to discuss this particular thing a little further before we pursue this thought, okay? You all right with the numbers? Thank you. During the winter months, the far end of the skylight dining room is cold. Well, that should be very easy to remedy. Make someone aware of that right away when you find that, and we can certainly compensate and put more heat in that end of the dining room. It wasn't too far from maybe 3 weeks from now last year we had our first big snowstorm, remember? I remember. Halloween. Okay. there's 3 pages, I must have missed one. There's excessive dust in the apartment. Noticed it on the furniture and in the air. I've heard this complaint from other residents. Filters are being changed, could it be a duct problem? Now, almost 100% of the ductwork in the building is fiberglass. And so, we don't disturb the fiberglass duct for good reason, of course. And doing a little research on this, most dust comes from our living habits in our apartment. That's where most of the dust comes from, in an apartment. And all we really can suggest is to ramp up the cleaning a little bit in your apartment. We do use MERV 6 and MERV 8 furnace filters that are high efficiency. And so we are fairly confident that the dust is not being generated by the furnace itself. Or the ductwork. Yes, Jim?
How often do you change the furnace filters?
2 times with that type of a filter, 2 times a year. Now, there are some exceptions. People with pets, we do it a little more often. On request, we do it a little more often. It's a single person in an apartment. Sometimes at 6 months when we get there, the filter is hardly been used at all. So it's a variety of things that affect the filters. Yes, sir, Jim?
Is that being changed without the resident in place? Because I don't recall
Well, you're right.
having been done.
Yeah, you're right at October right now, and I don't want to make any excuses for our staffing, but we are just a tad little short right now, and we're behind on our furnace filter changing, which we hope to remedy in the next 3 to 4 weeks or so. Thank you, Jim. Let's see what I asked. That's it? Anything else going on? In the back row, there's something going on.
Can you do anything about the raccoons that are driving us crazy near the woods? Every night they're such squabbling, it's terrible.
You know what? Our wildlife is just wonderful around here. And I appreciate all of it, including the raccoons, however. Tim Vogel had a suggestion that we charge them rent and they'll probably leave. Looking for source of revenue,
But it's scary.
Yeah, there's raccoons here. We do have raccoons, so don't approach a raccoon, stay away from them.
No, but it makes such a squabbling at 12:30 at night or 2 in the
I
morning.
wish I knew what to tell you.
Get the baby gun, Pat. I've been here Brian, I've been here over 5 years, and this is the first year that it's been like this.
They're kind of a troupe of actors out there. We watch them on the cameras at night around here. And they make their rounds. But we don't particularly know what to do about them. We trap them. We have, in the past, trapped a few out. And they have a great way to find their way right back here for some reason. I don't know if anybody has a suggestion on how to get rid of it. I counted 9 of them the other day. If you have a suggestion how to get rid of them.
Encourage the coyotes.
We love our coyotes because they love raccoon for lunch. So when you see the coyote, say a good word. Tell them to go get eating on the raccoons. You notice the rabbit population is down also? That's because our coyotes are eating very well these days. I wish I had more for you on the raccoons. We keep our distance. That's about what we can do here. Okay, anything else going on out there? Well, it's been lovely talking to everyone. And I would assume everyone's smiling underneath all those masks, right? Thank you very much. Jennifer?
Good afternoon. It's nice to see all of our residents in attendance today, along with our furry friend Tutter down there as well. My question today is, can we open the swimming pool on the weekends? So unfortunately, we have had 2 incidents involving the pool over the past few weeks, which has resulted in a very lengthy closure, costly repair, and extensive physical labor for our Newcastle staff team as a result of these incidents. If the swimming pool were to be open during the weekends, we would most certainly need someone on staff to be here and monitor that area. Due to COVID-19, we simply have not had the foot traffic in our fitness center or swimming pool to warrant the need for opening this area 7 days a week. I want to remain a good fiscal steward of your money. We will, however, open our fitness center 7 days a week, effective immediately, with the notion that there will not be a staff person here on Saturdays and Sundays. Residents will need to follow proper protocol, such as wiping down the equipment after each use, maintaining physical distancing, washing hands prior to coming in, and most importantly, only using the facility while in good health. Does anyone have any questions about the swimming pool?
Yeah, what was the reason it had to be closed down?
Jim Partleton's question is, what is the reason for the swimming pool closure over the last month? Unfortunately, due to the severity of each of these incidents, which are fecal incidents, draining the entire pool was the only solution. To put this in perspective, if I may, every toilet manufactured since 1994 uses a maximum of 1.6 gallons per flush. We have 30,000 gallons of water in our swimming pool. That means that each time we have to drain the entire pool for an incident like this, it is equivalent to flushing a single toilet 18,750 times. I'm going to say that one more time. When we closed the pool last week, we just flushed a toilet 18,750 times. So I just want to remind everyone who wants to use the swimming pool, please be in good health prior to coming in and making that decision to use the pool. Thank you very much.
Jennifer?
Jim?
What does that cost? What does that cost Newcastle to fill the pool, do you know?
I'm going to defer to Brian Lumens, putting him on the spot. I'm wondering if you could maybe guesstimate how much that 18,750 flush. You know, it's more than just the water too, but then it's heating the pool. It's the chemical balances. It's the time, and I have Patrick, our fitness and aquatic manager, in the back, and I want to thank him, Tanya Haswell, and Cindy for the 4 of us spent 4 hours with in our bare feet, cleaning that. And I don't need to say anything more than I just want to thank Patrick and my team for the work that they did to ensure that we have a very safe pool for you all to enjoy. Jim?
Do you have a sense of who or how this incident occurred?
I don't think we want to get into any details other than the 2 incidents have been identified, and we are working to just maintaining a safe environment for all of you. And that's my goal. We don't want anyone sick, residents or staff.
My question was prompted on, are we confident that we have the ability to stop this from occurring again?
That's a tough question. Jim's question is, are we confident we have the ability to stop this again? And again, it goes back to me just reiterating my comment that I need everyone to make sure that they are in good health. Use the bathroom prior to entering the pool. And those are my final words. Thank you.
Does anyone have any additional questions, comments, or concerns for the resident council or for the members of leadership in attendance today?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
For a second. That was noted. All in favor?